Hi guys. Today is three common questions I'm hearing a lot of people ask. These are people at the beginning of their journey, people figuring out who they want to be as a writer. And they are, someone has already written my story, what do I do? What is a writer's voice? How do I find my voice? And the other one is a question they should ask themselves, and I've heard other people ask it of writers. What do you want to do with your writing? That one there we'll attack first. We'll go backwards. What do you want to do with your writing? I myself love those smaller independent type films. I like Nordic noir. I like crime. I love watching a big blockbuster. Give me a Marvel film. Give me Nolan's Dark Knights. Love them. But I also love things like Nolan's Memento or Inception. I love those films. I mean, they're both. Inception's a huge budget, but it's a small story about a man trying to get back to his wife, trying to get back to his family, get back to his kids. What happens inside your head? What happens with your ambitions and your dreams? I like those sorts of stories. So that's what I want to do with my writing. I can see my career being writing indie films, writing crime dramas or dramas, more tragedies. There's a few I've got in the works at the moment and a few that are sort of underway. That's my writing, but there's nothing wrong with writing for the love of the art, writing for joy, writing for passion, wanting to tell stories. And that you're still a writer, but understanding that about yourself is very important. Don't get drawn into the you have to want to go to Hollywood, you have to want to write for TV, you have to have big ambitions. You can figure out early on what you want to do with your writing and then from there improve it in the way that you want. Maybe you figure out that all writing is writing, but this may not be the form for you. You may be better off doing short stories or short films or novels or novellas or poetry. There might be a million ways you want to tell your story, and you think the only way you can really get your story across is to make it into a movie, is to be a filmmaker, which isn't true. You can tell a story in many ways. Interpretive dance, if you ever watched Summer Heights High here in Australia and saw Mr. G. There is ways of telling stories, so figure out what you want to do with your writing and focus on that. And that will make you a better writer because you won't be studying a form or a style or a technique or a format or structures that aren't going to service the way you want to tell a story. The second big one, and this is a really common one, and most people tell it as a story of woe. It's a depressing thought for them, is that someone's already told my story. I had this great idea. If it's an idea, don't worry about it. You'll have a million more. They're like leaf litter. But I've started writing the story, or I've just finished my first draft and I've found out that there's another film that is the same story as mine. It's exactly the same as my story. Well, there's nothing new since Frankenstein. And maybe even Frankenstein wasn't that original because you do have the tradition of the golem. What do? Well, you write your story. Because we had White House has fallen and I think Poseidon is falling and White House down in the same year. Nearly identical films about the White House being taken over and the president being held captive. You had Dante's Peak and Volcano in the same year about two large volcanoes going off, large urban population in the USA. We had Deep Impact and Armageddon in the same year. So what if someone's telling the same story as you? They're not going to tell it exactly the same way as you. They're going to have the same beats, the same theories, the same things. If you look at films that, if you take the cover off, take the veneer off, you can see they're the same film. Famous one is Avatar and Dances with Wolves. A military guy goes and lives amongst the native population, falls in love and ends up fighting against his own side. There is a lot like that. I'm trying to think of the other... and people sort of say Joker is the king of comedy and the Taxi Driver put together. No. They've got some of the elements. He's a comedian. The king of comedy was about a failed comedian. The taxi driver is about a disassociated person with society who turns his back on society, but he goes out and commits major crime or minor crimes. He doesn't go and inspire an entire revolution in a city. So there's similarities. You can see those touchstones. So if someone has come up with your exact story, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be your exact story because you're going to tell it a little bit different. You're going to tell your interpretation. You're going to tell the Craig version of the Hunger Games, or Craig's version of Logan Run, or look at all the different versions from the early 70s through to the modern version for Planet of the Apes. And it is basically the same franchise. It's told in so many different ways. So just continue on with your story. Go if you can get hold of their script or see their film, and then try to put it out of your mind. Or actually don't even see it till you finish your story, and then go back and you'll see they're not the same. You'll see that you're perfectly good, you're right. And there is not a single word you write which is wasted. All writing is practice. When you write your first script, and this is what people say to me, I finished my first script, what should I do? And they think I'm going to say, oh, well, you register it with the WGA and the American Library of Congress, and then you send it out cold calling the manager. I say, no, put it in the drawer. Start writing your second script. And when you finish that one, put it in the drawer, start writing your third script. Because at the end of your third script, you'll realise that your first script isn't very good. It might be a great story, might have fantastic characters. But you've grown as a writer. You were a better writer at the end of your first script than you were at the start of your first script. At the end of your third script, you're a far better writer than you are at the start of the first script. You may even see that it's not even a movie anymore, that you thought it was a movie because you're in love with a couple of explosions, the characters, and you thought they had some really cool hook lines. But it's not really a movie anymore. It was a learning exercise. If you think you've got one great story in you and this is the movie and you're going to do Gone with the Wind, like that lady ever wrote one real novel, that was Gone with the Wind, and you think this is me, give it to another screenwriter to write. Don't write it yourself, because the time it takes you to learn screenwriting well is longer, far too long. So you're better off writing your story in a narrative form, write it out in prose, dot points, poems, doesn't matter, and give it to a screenwriter to convert into the screenwriting format. Don't bother learning the screenwriting format. If in your life you have one story to tell that story. Don't become a screenwriter. Finding your voice. I've got little post-it notes just here. How do you find your voice? What is a writer's voice? My voice is my action lines are short. They're not overly flowery. They were when I first started. I tried it, like the opening line of The Valley, which is with Two Hot Films in the UK, was the sky is dark and grey, painting everything in blue and grey tones. Incredibly evocative, and maybe it's a good line. I don't know. They bought it. Now I would be far more simple, descriptive things. Forest, overcast, long shadows, maybe, if that's what I wanted to get across. But it'd be forest, overcast, sparse trees, Don stands on a path. Very short. I tend to write in very short descriptive sentences now. I do a lot of description around a character, and then I give a real world example. Say for Don, I say a man stands in outdoor clothing, like he's a camper. He's angry with a beard. He's white, in his 40s. He looks dishevelled. So that gives the casting director white, beard, we understand camping clothes, dishevelled look. That's what you sort of really, and 40s. We understand this sort of thing, and he's angry. So there's a couple of quick little lines, quick little words, and that's my style now. Next Caller, which I'm finishing up soon, a draft of, starts off with a car park at night. Ordinary looking family cars, except for a well-maintained black muscle car. Inside the muscle car is, I think the character's name is Mark, wearing the uniform of a muscle car owner. T-shirt, jeans, and muscles. That's really short, little sentences, but that's my voice now. That's what I've come to be as a writer. Short little descriptions that get the point across. Let a person feel the pictures in themselves. Because if I tell them, oh, it's a red flower that does this, and that's not their idea of a beautiful garden, I've lost them. I've got to give them enough for them to paint the picture themselves, and then they'll move on. If they're a reader, or they're a producer, or they're a director. I'm building the story. I'm telling my version of the story in a screenplay format, so someone can take it and make it their story in their format, which could be film. That's the way it is. And that's how you develop your voice. You figure out how you want to talk as a writer, and you do that through practice, writing 3, 4, 5 scripts, reading lots of scripts and seeing how other screenwriters do it. Read the greats. When people say to me, what should I read? My default answer is always Taylor Sheridan's Hell or High Water. That's like a masterclass in screenwriting. The descriptions are great. You can feel the heat. You can feel the desperation of the countryside in the United States. It's a great, great script. So definitely read that one. If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe so you see when they're coming out. If you've got any questions, leave comments. There's a lot of other videos now. We've been doing these for a little while. They come out weekly. You know, life gets in the way, writing gets in the way. But I'll try to put one out every week. If you've got any questions and you want these discussed here, please drop them in the comments or nick over to griffithscreative.com.au. There you can hit the contact us, leave notes. If we're going to do the logline podcast, logline log, that's been getting in the way. But if you've got specific questions, put them there as well. For long questions, it's a great place to put them and we can discuss them. We can get them out and help other writers. Like I said, if you hit the like, it helps us immensely because it'll get these videos discovered and hopefully help other writers in their journey. Until next time, keep writing.